This is Taking the Lead, a podcast for B2B tech professionals, leaders, and executives who want to learn from female icons in the tech industry. In each episode, host Christina Brady interviews women who are driving revenue for some of the most respected tech companies in the world. Are you ready to get inspired?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taking the Lead. If you don't know me, I'm Christina Brady. I am the Chief Strategy Officer of a company called Sales Assembly. We work with scaling B2B tech companies, and we help the entire company and every individual to scale faster, scale better, and scale smarter. From training to certifications to advisory to org structure help, we are here for whatever you need. But enough about me and us. That's not exciting. You know what's exciting is I have Jamie Kirmess on the episode today. Jamie, hi, welcome.
Hey, Christina. So happy to be here. You know, I'm a major fangirl, so this is like a dream come true for me.
I mean, likewise, in the little bit of time that we've been able to spend together, I was like, oh, you got to come share your story, tell who you are. So I am just equally honored to have you and to give us this time so we can all learn from you and relate to you and all the great things. So you are currently the managing director at Shift Paradigm, but you've got kind of a cool path before that. Tell us a little bit about what got you here.
Yeah. So I am from a very small town in Michigan, population 269. So I promise you I will not bore you with like the whole story, but
I don't know. Small town stuff can get juicy.
Oh, yeah. It's real juicy. I know everything. So going from that sort of small town feel where I thought the only thing that you could be in life was like a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher to where I am now, which is a managing director at a consulting firm. It's been a really wild ride. So I went to school for public relations and found that, and Spanish actually, which don't ask me to speak Spanish today. I can't do it, but found that I really just didn't enjoy the working with journalists, honestly. Like it just wasn't getting me fired up. It didn't give me the passion that I needed. So I actually started working at a global market research company, Euromonitor, and I was their social media manager. And I was sort of doing PR too. It was kind of more fun PR because you got to do data and analysis and provide them a sort of a take on the market. But we decided to implement Marketo at that organization. And I was the only one who could figure out how to use it. My boss was like, Jamie, can you please figure out this technology? We need to just send some emails. And I remember we did this whole campaign with the sales team around, new leads are coming. And it was a fail. I mean, honestly, it was a huge fail. And that really ignited a fire in my belly because I was like, this technology is powerful, but it doesn't just create leads for you, and you really have to have strategy behind it. So I spent a lot of time there. I actually worked with Deborah Sandra, who's on your podcast. So I was surrounded by a lot of powerful women, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna go do something different, and I really want to double down on this Marketo skill that I have. So then I went to LeadMD, and I became a revenue operations consultant. So really focusing on RevOps, with a specialty on Marketo, to be fair. That's kind of where we got to start. And then we began moving up market at LeadMD and started offering services around channel diversification and ideal customer profiling and sales process design and sort of some of the things that were more natural to me because of my background. When I was at Euromonitor, I also got a master's degree in public relations. I was really doubling down on that.
You're in, all in.
But yeah, so I got into consulting and started, as we moved up market, that naturally for me was a good fit because of my background, like my educational background. And so things like talking about strategy and demand gen strategy and sales process design, that was actually a lot more natural to me than consulting on like custom objects in Salesforce. So I just kind of built my career at LeadMD. I've been there for 7 years. We're now Shift Paradigm. We were acquired a couple of years ago by Trendline Interactive, and then the company's rebranded, sort of a merger of a bunch of smaller agencies and consultancies. And together we became Shift Paradigm. So that sort of led me into just my role now, which is a managing director. So I oversee our technology line of business. So I work with clients in the technology space, a lot of B2B SaaS companies, but I have other clients that are not in that space too, but really growing our services. My team is responsible for understanding our clients' goals and really architecting the solutions for them. So, they're a part of the new business process. They come in, they scope the project, and then they sort of stay with clients throughout their lifetime. So that's what I do today.
Woo! I'm loving this. Okay, I have so many questions for you, as I always do. I'm always listening. I was like, I could spend an hour just digging into your background because it's so interesting that so many of the roles that you've had, I think a lot of people today would say that they're unbelievably difficult to break into. Like we hear now people say like, gosh, breaking into tech, it's so difficult. Does everybody just have to be a BDR and then you can go do what you really want to do, right? It's like, how do you break in? And so how did you initially land that social media manager job? Because I find now if I were to go on any job platform and look up social media manager, the list of skills and timeline needed to get into that role would be vast and would likely make people feel a little bit maybe uncomfortable or like, wow, I don't have that. I'm in my head. Perhaps I'm a fraud. How did you get into that role so early?
Well, the funny thing is that I didn't have any of that insecurity when I was younger. So I was young. I'm an ENTP personality type. So naturally I'm very gregarious. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I love to learn and share information. And so I went into this social media manager job being like, I know social media. I can do it.
I got it.
I had no insecurities there. But honestly, I was working at a PR agency as an intern, pitching vacuums to magazines, being like, can you please cover the Dyson vacuum in your magazine? And it wasn't for me. Right. And so
that's hard.
A lot of desire, a lot of grit, a lot of like just need to get out of that job and into a more full-time job. I didn't want to be an intern. I wanted to work in something. I didn't really care. So I was more looking at the company and I knew I loved market research. I stumbled upon Euromonitor on like a job board. It was probably like Indeed or something. And I just went all out. I remember I had no money at the time. I remember going to a Starbucks, grounding up some quarters so I could use the Wi-Fi and like just researching the crap out of that company and like spent hours preparing a cover letter and a resume. And I got the job. I don't know how. I stood out. I got the job. And so it's funny because I didn't know that Euromonitor was actually a tech company at the time. They did global market research, but they also have a market research platform that has more of a SaaS-based model behind it. I didn't even know I was getting into it. I just sort of fell into it.
Yeah, that's identical. When I broke into tech, I didn't know that I was breaking. I didn't realize and did not consciously think, oh, I'm breaking into the industry. I applied for a company that was hiring a bunch of people in Chicago with just a little bit of sales experience. Also, quick rewind. Did you say that you had to gather quarters to get on the internet at Starbucks?
Yes.
What year was this? Early 2010s? It's like 2013? Did you have to use quarters to get on the internet at Starbucks?
No. Like I had to buy a coffee at Starbucks.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. You've roughed it.
I got it. Cheapest coffee and just sat there for hours.
So you could sit there.
So I could use the internet. Yes.
You're like, can I have some boiled water? How much is that? I don't know if I have enough for that. Next question I have for you. And I love the youthful confidence that having no money brings.
I know.
I think like if we could bottle that, because I'd be very similar, right? It's like early on, like I would do anything. I would work any number of hours because I had no money. I had no safety net. And it was, I will do whatever I have to do and it doesn't matter. And you lead with that kind of desperate confidence. Oh no, it serves us well. And so that desperate confidence, let's talk about then. So you get there, you're the only one that can figure out Marketo. Now I've worked with Marketo and it's a great tool, fairly nuanced. How did you know what to do with that? What drove you to being able to be the person who could figure that out?
And my boss told me to do it. Like I'm an achiever. And so when somebody says to me, I need you to go do this thing, I'm going to go do that thing. So, again, I was getting my master's degree. I was a few years out of school. So I was just in learn mode. Anything that I could do to learn something new and to be valuable, that's what I did. And Marketo really created this category. I think about all of the ebooks that I read and all of the free education that they gave to people in the world. And I mean, they should just be really proud of what they did because they totally transformed my career. So a lot of it was just naturally, I love to learn and I figured it out. But the funny thing is that as I went to lead MD, Euromonitor, I was like the Marketo queen. I was like, yeah, go to her for anything Marketo related. And then I get to lead MD and they're like hardcore Marketo people. Like,
Yeah.
I remember starting and I was like, oh my gosh, these people are talking in a different language. I don't know what a custom object is. I don't know what this like middleware means. I don't know any of this stuff. And so I was a fish out of water when I started there. But I'm also love to learn and I am just a naturally like, I'm good with clients. So in a consulting environment where I can learn about other people and what makes them tick and then use my resources on the background to make that a reality for that person. That is really what motivated me. I started to be of service to others and started sort of combining my education with the tech. And I think that's what allowed me to be successful there.
Yeah. I mean, your professional curiosity, I think, has carried you really far and will continue to, but it's combined with some grit and tenacity. I mean, the things that I say are somewhat unteachable. They're repeatable, they're scalable, but it's very hard to teach somebody that sort of intrinsic curiosity and intrinsic tenacity that you possess. Do you know why you have that? What led you to sort of being somebody that is just, you lean in so authentically and so heavy? Can you tie, like if we were to say, let's bottle you, what in your life brought about these incredible characteristics?
That's really hard to say. I don't know that I have the answer to that. I feel like it's sort of just natural because if you look at me compared to like my brother who has the same upbringing, we are totally different people. You look at my mom, for example, she has a very modest life. Nobody really has like the grit and sort of, I don't know, just the desire to sort of break out like I do. So I don't really know. I think it's natural.
Yeah. This is going to plague you now though. And I apologize because after you're going to be thinking, you're going to be like, what was it? And sometimes, I mean, it's just who you are. It's your spirit. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, the Myers-Briggs, I took it and it was sort of I would encourage anybody who is going from, so at Lead MD, I went from being sort of an individual contributor and a consultant on an executive level individual contributor who sort of like managed relationships with clients, made sure that I understood their business goals, and then sort of led the team around that. To then being, after the merger of Trendline and Lead MD, I was promoted to SVP of client success. And so that is where I started to, this quest for learning and everything. It was like, it always suited me well. And then I got into this executive leadership position and I was like, okay, I feel again like a fish out of water and I need to figure this out. I need to remember how to be a leader and not an individual contributor. And I need to, it's just a different muscle. And so that was a period of my career where I was really, really doubling down on the learning, searching for answers, trying to be the best leader that I could be. And I was offered the opportunity to work with an executive coach. And she put me through the Myers-Briggs test and a couple of other like executive level tests. And I know some people are like, I don't believe in these tests. And I get that they can be flawed. But for me, they gave me so much more confidence because I was able to understand that something like learning and tenacity and grit and passion and just excitement is something that naturally I have. It's like part of my strengths. But things like process, which is hilarious that I was working in Rob, because things like process and data and the details and like the pragmatism of day-to-day decision making was actually not my strength. Right. And so I think the Myers-Briggs and the whole executive coaching experience was one for me that was super valuable. And it gave me the space to sort of reflect around how can I add value in this position and not think that I have to like do everything and be everything that I'm.
Absolutely. It's hard to come to that too. And I love that you talk about the assessments. I think you and I are alike in the ends. I'm INFJ. But outside of that, we balance each other, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think you're right that like taking a quick sequitur to talking about like where can assessments be really, really helpful from a human standpoint, but then also from a business standpoint. Typically, these assessments are meant to gauge one to two of three separate things: personality, behavior, or communication. And you have to understand the assessment that you're taking. What is the application and what is it meant to uncover? Because I often hear people talk about these and say, oh, I came up as this in, DISC or the Dope Bird test or Myers-Briggs or 60 personalities. And they're like, oh, and it just doesn't really fit my personality at all. I was like, well, the one that you just listed actually isn't meant to outline your personality. It's meant to outline your communication patterns and how you actually interpret different ways of communicating. And when you put the right lens on it, suddenly you go, okay. Now, look, not everything is going to be 100%, but you make an incredible point about using assessment-based technology to basically help us connect and work better together and understand each other, but you have to apply it the right way. Right. I'm going to get off of my soapbox. How did you, I always get on there, like, okay, with assessments, how did you make the transition from marketing to where you are right now? Like, what prompted that move? Did you call that out, that you wanted to go in that direction? Was this a company need? Was it your curiosity taking over? Because I don't think a lot of people would even think to make that jump and that switch. So how did that happen for you?
Well, sort of happened naturally. So going from that individual contributor role to, which is consulting for marketing, right? Like, essentially you're in working with CMOs and, VPs of marketing. Those were my main clients, and I was working with them day to day. The interesting thing is that I've done in-house marketing, but not at the executive level. So I was sort of, I'm advising clients through the breadth of my experience with other executives versus being in the seat and myself, which has pros and cons, right? It has a lot of pros because you can approach it really logically and more objectively, and less in some cons in the emotional and empathetic set because you haven't been in that seat and you're kind of more objective, right? So moving from an individual contributor who focused on marketing advice, marketing consulting, and sales into a leader who leads the team that does that and needs to be more focused on shift paradigms business, right? Yeah. The managing director role is really just sort of an extension on the SVP role. It's just kind of more of a specialty in our tech. So I kind of am doing the same thing that I was in the SVP role, just more focused on technology. But you have to care for the business, right? You have to care for the growth of the business, the retention of our clients, profitability, all of the things that make a business run. And so moving from just focusing on clients to now focusing on shift paradigm was sort of the next evolution of my career, which, in sales, that's pretty common to go from focusing on, and I don't even say what I do as sales, it's more consulting, but, going from an individual contributor who's got a number to leading a team of people who's responsible for, being that commercial hub of the business is a big move.
Right. Big time. And anytime there's a big move or a big promotion or you're changing, one, it feels like all eyes are on you. And then two, we get in our heads. We get in our heads and we let it get to us. What crept into your head when you were making this change or really any change
in your
career?
So many things. It's so funny how just being naive and young, I had so much confidence. And as you acquire knowledge, you become less confident.
Right. Why? Is that a woman thing or is that a human thing?
I don't know. I think it's a human thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a human thing. Yeah, because you as you broaden and you learn that there's so much more that you don't know. And there's so many people that have other skills that you don't have. And that's a good thing. But it can be hard in the moment to see that as a good thing. It can be hard to not compare yourself to other people. So for me, there are some things that are really silly to things like, for example, my vocabulary is one of my biggest insecurities. So the other people on my team, some people grew up in like the East Coast and, from families that were more well off. And for me, I grew up in the sticks and I have to Google whenever somebody uses like a big word, like, what does that mean? I know that sounds so silly, but it's just, those are not words that my family used growing up. Even my teachers, like I just wasn't exposed to a very large vocabulary set. So things like that, little things like that, to where I'm like, I can't keep up in the room, to things like one time we did an executive retreat and we all had to self-assess ourselves into a corner. It was like, are you a driver? Are you an enthusiast? Which category are you? And it was like, managers and above. And literally everybody on the executive team was in one corner except for me. I was the only person in this other corner that was more like, they were all like drivers, business focused, outcomes focused. And I was more like passion and enthusiasm and adventure. And I think those are things that make me me. They give me strength and they're the reason I've been successful. But it's hard not to compare yourself to, wow, I'm the only one who's not in that other corner with the executive. So it's like, am I different? Am I really qualified for this job? Can I do it here? Right. With these people where I'm different than them. So those are things that came into my head. And what I've really learned is, and it's, this is a journey. This is not like a light bulb went off and, oh, I'm all better and I don't have these insecurities. But what I've learned is that it's okay for me to not be those things. And I can double down on my strengths and I can surround myself with people who actually are really good at those other things. And together we can make magic happen. But you have to let go of the ego associated with being okay with not being all things to all people.
Yeah. Or being your own thing, I mean, I'm sitting and I'm just thinking about the experiences that I've had where almost every time that I have a social outing that is work related, I leave that social outing and for a period of no less than 4 to 5 hours, I am replaying every interaction in my head and wondering, was I too much? Did I show up the right way? Was I too jovial? Like, did I fit in with everybody? Am I standing out? Do people think I'm an idiot? Like, I just replay this thing over and over and over again. And you say the thing around the vocabulary is, silly. I can understand it though, because it's hard to feel like you are lesser. But I feel like also as human beings, we find opportunities to identify where we're lesser. Like it's so easy to go down that negative path and be like, oh my gosh, I'm lesser. I didn't know what that word meant and everyone else in the room did. Whereas I actually just feel like your authenticity is probably just a lot stronger in the sense that you didn't pick the quadrant that was I'm a business driver leader because you were answering the question honestly. There's something interesting that I learned when I was really heavy into taking the DISC assessment. And it was everybody who takes the test the first time, that is your real authentic result. And every time you take it after that, people tend to try to get into the quadrant that they need to be in to be perceived as succeeding in their role. And it's a really interesting study that people are like, I'm going to try to because I need to be up in this quadrant if I'm going to be good at this job.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you're in your own quadrant, which I think is wonderful, and you're successful in what you do. So what do you do about the head trash? How do you get rid of it? Or do you just live with it? Is it like a friend on your shoulder, your little head trash friend that you acknowledge and you leave there? How do you handle it?
A little bit of both. I have an amazing crew of people that I work with, and I'm able to talk to them about these things, right? So after that meeting, I went to my boss and I said, hey, what did you think about that? And I was like, it made me a little insecure, And so I have great relationships with the executive team at Shift. And right now I report directly to our CEO, Liz Ross, who, she's a powerhouse in advertising. And so I've been able to talk to her about, how have you approached this situation in the past? And funny enough, she is very similar to me in some of her strengths and areas of opportunities too. And so she's been able to share some advice. So I would say talking to people and feeling like I'm in a safe environment has been key. But also I think the piece of me that is just a learner, like I binge listened to, when I found your podcast, I binge listened to it because I'm like, women are so smart and they have so much to offer. And so I like to listen to other people's journeys and get power from that. And then usually that changes my perspective on things. It's all about just perspective and how are you thinking about it? Because if you're thinking about it in a negative way or thinking it's going to hold you back, then it probably will. But if you can change the way that you think about it and you can get others sort of to help you think through that and bought into the way that you're thinking about it, then they can be accelerators for you in your career. So as an example, we went through a ton of growth as a company. And so we don't have things like our sales process documented or objection handling. Like it's not documented. It's just tribal knowledge. Right. And so I have a brand new team of people. We added a whole bunch of people because we grew like crazy. And I'm at a point where I'm like, I need to get these people ramped up and quickly. And it's not my strength to sit down and document everything. Like I'll start it and then I'll get sidetracked and do something else because it's not what excites me. And so instead, what I did is I said, listen, where I'm going to be most valuable to the organization is not in the process and the systematizing and the toolkit, really. I'm going to be best if I can get in there and coach and help my team like listen to our clients better and really hear their pain and like listen for the little cues and build relationships. That's where I'm going to be most successful. And so I had that conversation with our executive team to say, listen, guys, I know that this is an expectation of me in my role. I'm struggling with it because I want to add value in this other thing. Can I get help with the documentation and the system? And it was a simple conversation to say, let's see who we can get on that, Jamie. And so it's a lot of it. I probably spent a quarter thinking about how I need to do this documentation and beating myself up over it. And all I really needed to do was have a simple conversation to say, I don't think that's where my time should be prioritized. Can you help me to get a resource with somebody who can help me with that?
Oh, well, because the outside thinker can also be so valuable because I always, when I was hiring my leadership teams, I always strived for balance. I needed people that actually were in whatever quadrant we were grading people on. I was like, I need at least one person in each of these because that to me is a well-balanced leadership team. So I would even, flip what we were saying on its head where it's like the fact that you were over here in a different spot probably makes the entire leadership team stronger because you need that diversity of thought and experience and personality in order to excel in what you're doing. And I would also, as I'm thinking through just all of the moments where other people professionally have hopefully accidentally made somebody feel insecure, I want to give humanity the benefit of the doubt. As a pessimist, I'm saying that, but I want to give humanity the benefit of the doubt that we don't deliberately want to make people feel insecure or bad about themselves. And yet in a professional setting, you can't throw a stone and hit somebody who hasn't said, oh, this person at my job or this boss or this CEO or this somebody just really made me feel super insecure. What advice do you have for leaders who are trying to build cultures of security and acceptance? What should we avoid to stop making people who may not fit the mold exactly, or just anybody, not feel insecure and get in their head about it? How do we support those folks to thrive and learn what they have to, instead of that sinking feeling of I'm not good enough that we're left with and haunts us for a long time?
The biggest piece of advice that I can say is focus on outcomes, right? So if you tell somebody this is the outcome that I need from you and put the learning and development in their court to say, what do you need to work on to reach this outcome? How can I help you be successful and create a safe environment where somebody can do that self-assessment? That will automatically give them more drive, I think, in my experience anyway, to go do the thing, right? So put it in their court. I think one of the things that for me anyway is demotivating is when I'm told you must do this thing. And I understand why somebody's saying that because they think that that's a means to the end. They think that that's the way we're going to be successful. But in my ENTP brain, I'm looking at it from 5 different angles. And I'm saying, no, actually, I don't think that that's the thing, right? Just because we have account planning meetings doesn't mean we're going to retain our client, right? So that's a tool in a toolbox. So it's like, instead of prescribing what needs to be done, the specific actions, let the person give you the action plan that's going to accomplish the goal.
Yeah. I mean, that's phenomenal advice. You mean, so just by creating the map, that doesn't mean that we're going to the mutual action plan. That's not all we need. And again, that's where it's like diverse thinkers. I have a potentially hard question for you, but yeah, like I'm here. I'm at your disposal. How do you interview for diversity of thought?
That is such a good question. So I have a competency model for my people. So I look for, when I'm interviewing people, there are certain competencies that I need the people to have, right? And how they approach those competencies or get to them are very, very different. So things like a competency might be customer orientation. And some of the behaviors that I would expect to see in customer orientation are things like reads client press releases, looks at earning reports, like understands what makes their clients tick, those types of things. And that can look a lot different. And when you interview people, if they bring that sort of diversity of perspective, or I really like when people challenge me in my thought process in the interview process, right? So something like customer orientation, if they come with something different than something that I didn't even think of, to me, that's automatically like, wow, this person has a different perspective. Or if they challenge my perspective, that is the cue to me that that's somebody that's going to bring additional insight to the team. So that's what I look for when I'm interviewing. We have an interview strategy where I have, here are the people on the team that are going to be interviewing this person. This is what I want each person to look for. Here are the competencies. Like if, for example, the CEO, I'm not looking for him or her to, I say him because I'm thinking lead MD Justin. It's now funny. I feel like I have to explain myself. We're defaulting to him there, but
it's an insecurity. And again, you're like, okay, now when I said him, I didn't mean, let me quickly.
Exactly. But I'm not asking them to assess things like marketing acumen or business acumen. I'm looking at them to assess cultural fit. And so it's both getting a diversity of interviewees and making sure that they're aligned with what they're looking for, and then looking for people who are going to challenge us during the interview process. That's how I like to hire for diversity of talent.
Oh, it's incredible. Your competency model. I feel like you're going to have people who are like, I would love to see your model because I do not have a model. I just interview on a whim, right? There's a lot of us who do that. I just go off of a feeling, a gut feeling, very subjective. Well, we could certainly talk about this all day long, but it brings me to our rapid reveal section. We have 5 questions, 60 seconds or less to answer each. Are you down?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Okay. First one, softball. What did you want to be when you grew up? Assuming that we are grown up now. Because,
are we grown up? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I definitely wanted to be a lawyer. Like 3rd grade, we did this field trip / play where everybody had a role and we went to the courthouse and I was the lawyer. I don't remember if I was the prosecutor or the defense attorney, but I was a lawyer. And we did it off of Jack and the Beanstalk. And I was like I don't remember how it went down, but I just remember being in the courtroom. My parents, we went to a yard sale and I got like this really cute little like businessy dress. And even though the lines were prescribed to me and I knew exactly what I was saying, like I felt so on fire in that courtroom. Like, this is what I meant to do. And I think it's funny because that's actually like, it fits really well with my ENTP. Like, I love to think about different perspectives, I'll argue just for the sake of arguing. I can see all perspectives. And I think that's why I probably would have made a good lawyer in another life.
Do you think you'll ever pursue that? Decide to be a lawyer?
No, I don't think so. Mostly because I have some friends that are lawyers and it's like that thing that they say where it's not as sexy as what you think it is. Like it's a lot of back of the house paperwork. I don't like looking at contracts and details. I just like the verbal argument and like the debate of it all. I'm like, you just want your job as a lawyer is not that.
You're like, I will do the opening.
Yes.
I will do the closing arguments. I will push back on the witness. I will call them out on their BS, but I need you to give me the cliff notes.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's probably also why I couldn't be a lawyer because it's that. It's like I'm like you where drilling into, and that's a communication behavioral thing is like digging into details is actually really arduous and difficult for folks who are high level thinkers. Not to say we can't, but it is difficult and we must apply more energy to do it. Mm-hmm. I am like you. And so I would also kind of like the showmanship aspect and be like, I'm about to slaughter this person. But then exactly. But I'm like, but tell me why. Why? I need the gold notes.
I need to prepare all of the like evidence and everything and just tell me what to say. Like I'm a fast learner too, so I can read it once and be like, I got this.
You're the talent. You're like, you do it. I'm the talent. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do it. I relate. Number 2, what's an irrational fear of yours?
Okay, so this is not PC, but do you follow the Instagram account Betches?
No.
It's like BETCHES. It's just like my
about to.
Basic B life. It cracks me up. Like it just gives me a good laugh. So they actually posted this irrational fear and I related to it. So, when you go to the OB and you have to like strip down and you've got like your panties and your your pants are sitting in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
I am
Oh, yeah.
always nervous that the doctor's going to come in and like look at my underwear and be like, what
It's
are,
part of the exam. This is part of the exam.
and
Yeah.
so I always will wear like my best pair of underwear to the doctor just in case they happen to see what I'm wearing.
They're like, is it laundry day? I can tell. Yeah, I have a similar one where I'm always afraid at the doctor that I'm going to get undressed too much, like more than they need me to. And they're going to come in and be like, why did you take off your bra? And I'll be
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry. And it's so then I never undress enough. So then it's always, I'm just like, they're like, okay, go ahead and put the gown on. I was like, how much clothes do you need me to have on? They're like, I mean, to your comfort level. I was like, my comfort level is fully clothed, no hospital gown. So I need you to be specific. What do I need to take off? Because I'm so afraid that I'll just like go too far. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, sorry. I'm sorry. Right. I wasn't trying. I'm sorry. I don't know. I feel like we could do an entire podcast on doctor insecurities and just like visiting and doing that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Terrible. Number 3, what is the last advice, this episode notwithstanding, that you gave someone?
My brother's getting out of the military and he's kind of deciding what's next. And so he works on helicopters. Totally opposite of me. He loves the technical mechanical stuff. And so he's looking at contractor options. And a couple of them are overseas and they pay a lot more than the onshore options. And so he's wrestling with, he has 3 girls and a wife. Like, do I leave my family and go over there for a year? And his whole rationale was like, they're used to it. It's okay. Like, I'm going to go, I'm going to make the money. They're used to me being gone because I've had so many tours. And I said, just because they've been conditioned, just because you've conditioned them that way doesn't mean that's right. And somebody said that to me early in my career. Like, just because you've been conditioned to be a certain way doesn't mean that that's like going to be what makes you happy. You have to challenge what you've been conditioned to do. And so it made him think a little. I don't know what he's going to decide yet, but that piece of advice has always stuck with me and I gave it to him.
Oh, that's beautiful. I feel like there's a children's book missing that you read to all of them when they graduate grammar school that says all the things you'll have to unlearn.
Yes.
To be a decent or happy person.
Yes.
But it's true, right? It's like there's a skill, there's a learning skill, but then there is also the ability to unlearn and recognize that, and that pays dividends a lot. So I think that's beautiful advice.
Yeah.
That
There's actually a quote that our CEO says all the time. It's the illiterate of the 21st century aren't those who can read, but who can't unlearn.
Oh,
So we say that often at Shift.
that is quotable.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I don't remember who said it, but it's somebody.
Whoever said it, if you're listening, we want to give you credit. Number 4, what's a hidden talent of yours?
If I have a talent, it's out there. I want the whole world to see. So I don't have many hidden talents, but what I will say is something I don't get to show very often is I'm very good at magic tricks, like card. But again, if I'm given the opportunity, I will bust out the magic trick. But most people don't know that I can do a mad card trick.
It's like a forced hidden talent because when are you gonna? Well, okay. The next time we get together, I'm expecting a show.
Yeah, I have a different cards in my purse at all times.
You're like, I bet would right. Oh my! You're always ready for a trick. Are you? I bet you're great at the airport. Like when kids are getting fussy, and you're like, all right, here we go. Have a deck of cards. I'm going to do magic tricks for your kids. So you're a hero.
Yeah, my kids are a little too small for that, but maybe that will be a thing in the future.
Oh my gosh, I love it. You're just a traveling magician that nobody knows about. You only do it to bring joy.
An amazing tour or a job. I would love it.
Yeah, you're like people don't know that you're there, and you just start doing it.
I have like 3 tricks though, so I mean,
that's okay. It's like a drive-by magic show.
Yeah.
Number 5, who has made the biggest impact on your life?
I have to say my mom. I thought about this and I was like, I feel like that's what everybody says, but it's true. Like my mom just created the loving, safe environment that I needed when I was little. Like she let me have my freedom, but also I knew I was safe. I always felt like I could open up to her. She always encouraged me. She never missed a game. So I don't know. She just gave me that like stability and love that I needed to be me.
Yeah. And it's a great answer. It should be a popular answer. Like our parents are the most influential people. And as adults, when we pull back on that, I mean, you're a mom, I'm a mom. That's a dream.
Yeah.
Right? Is to make that kind of impact on your kids' lives that is so positive that they carry it with them. It's like at minimum, if I achieve nothing else in my life, I want my son to be a happy, well-adjusted adult that knows how much his mom and dad loved him and can think back on that, right? It's like it's the foundation that can survive without money, without housing, without anything. Is just like that incredible foundation that parents can give. So I think it's beautiful.
Exactly.
As I say so much on the show, I could talk to you all day, but alas, we are at time. So if folks want to connect with you, if they want to learn from you, if they want to learn more about what Shift Paradigm is up to, where can people go to find you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Jamie Kirmess. My email is jamie@shiftparadigm.com. Those are probably the best two places to reach out to me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your candor and talking all about the insecurities that we as people, we as women face as we are navigating this professional journey that we are all on. It's been wonderful talking to you.
You too. Thanks, Christina.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Taking the Lead. If you're looking for more inspiring stories from women leaders in B2B tech, then visit us at motionagency.io/takingthelead.